Mike Dawson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt,
Here.
Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
It's Squixt.
Martin Charlo, Len Tootie,
Here. Martin, could you give us a prayer this morning, please?
Mr. Chair. Today we pray for our families, our elders, our people that help us every day, all of our staff, all of the people out there on the roads. Let them be safe with the change in weather, kind of the fog out there. Thankful for the moisture up in the mountains. Prayers for this upcoming fall and winter and everything we're doing for that. Prayers for all the people that pray against us, all of our friends, all of our enemies, and everyone in between. Limits.
Thank you, Martin. We have minutes from November 6th. Motion by Tom to approve the November 6th minutes with any corrections. Second by Len. All in favor? Unanimous.
Quick question. I just noticed Mark came in. We were talking about the baseball fields in Arley. Is the tract where the rodeo grounds is setting, is there a lease on that property right now?
No, the lease has expired as of, I think it was October 1st. That is no longer in a leasing status.
Okay.
And we haven't put it back out for a lease or advertised for it. Because
Okay.
we didn't know what the future of the the rodeo grounds were going to be down in Arley.
Okay,
If they were
you.
going to be continued as rodeo grounds or anything else. So we did not advertise yet because nobody has approached us to utilize that property other than Mr. White with a potential egg club or something like that, kind of like a 4-H club for youth. Was the only approach on it, but it's not went any further either.
How many acres are on the tract?
Oh,
Or is it part of the powwow grounds tract?
it's part of the powwow grounds tract. I would say there's probably 40 acres there and an additional 40 in the back behind the rodeo grounds.
Oh, okay, thank you.
we have an agenda for today?
I have two issues for the agenda.
Any other, Daryl,
Mr. Chair,
James?
yeah, I have something.
Got a motion by Carol to approve the agenda with additions, second by Martin. All in favor? We have unanimous. It looks like we have 3 walk-ins, so. Mr. Weatherwax, come on up. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You guys hear me? All right, cool. Today I come to talk about furthering my education through fire, and I have some things here to read about here. My academic interests here. I've been fighting fire since I got right out of high school. I've been jumping through all the tribal programs. I've been staying here as tribal. I had opportunities to go smoke jumping and stuff, but I just love my tribe and I like to stay here. Good area. So my career goals as I was growing up is to jump through all the fire programs and see how everything was ran through the Division of Fire. So I started out as a knacker and I was a hand crew for a full season. Loved it. It was cool, going on your land, stopping fires small, keeping them small. After that, I got on full time with Division of Fire as starting out as aide. Went in there aide. I was already qualified as a squad boss, and I moved up the next year to a tech, and I was moving on to my career. And I started out on the engine crews, so the engines there. And I did good for 2 years, and I got my quals good enough, and I felt like I was good to jump to the next program. So I talked to the bosses, and they allowed it. So I jumped to the next program to the Type 2 IA crew when it first came out. And then through that, the BIA bring the Type 2 IA crew to have everybody qualled up to be a hot shot crew. But that sort of got shot down, and just qualifications and not too many people committed. So I stayed committed, and since that program went away, I jumped over to fuels management. So now I'm in the fuels doing WUI under 638 policies and stuff like that, and I liked it. Burning piles, thinning. So I'm thinning and I'm burning piles. Doing this all year, doing good. And jumped over the program. Another program I jumped over was Hell Attack. And Hell Attack was straight fire. So I'm getting all these qualifications, jumping through all these programs. Now I'm over into monitoring. So now we're going into these tree stands, and I'm monitoring all these trees around here on this reservation and seeing what's going on, what needs to be cut, what are the catastrophic fires and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's cool. It's nice. So now I'm want to pursue, and I wrote up a paper here on my academics on what I'm going on, and I just like for you guys to support me and see if I can go to school while I work. So I'm gonna tell you my background. I'm Greg Weatherwax. I'm Salish and Kootenai, so it's pretty hard walking 2 worlds, with Salish and Kootenai in me. I would like to bring everybody together as within youth and everything like that. So while I'm furthering my career, I like to bring everybody together as Indians and to be proud of who you are. So my academic interest in wildland fire management is deeply informed by connections of the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribes, where fire is not merely a hazard to be suppressed, but an integral part of the ecological and cultural landscape. My commitment to education, community, and cultural preservation is the driving force behind my desire to do a modern fire science with traditional ecological knowledge, which we call as TEK, T-E-K. A career in this field is focused on my service for this CSKT community, represents a unique opportunity to apply academic learning and real-world challenges while honoring the heritage of my ancestors. Wildland fire management for the CSKT tribes represent a critical interactions of science and traditional uses, which I find proudly compelling. Academic study will provide the technical skills necessary to address the modern complexity of fire, including climate change, invasive species, and the wild-urban interface. I'm particularly interested in the GIS, prescribed fires, and ecological modeling, which can be applied to create more resilient to our landscapes. However, my approach will always be grounded in traditional knowledge passed down through generations. The Confederated Salish Kootenai tribe have long used prescribed fire to manage these ecosystems, foresting the growth culturally significantly the plants and the blue camas, and reduce hazardous fuel loads. My academic path will therefore focus on how modern technology and can enhance and explain these old age practices, not replace them. The historic approach, combining scientific with traditional ecological knowledge, is most effective way to ensure the long-term health of our lands and people. My education pursuit is motivated and deep-seated by commitment to my CSKT community. The CSKT Division of Fire exists to protect the tribe's trust assets, to promote the economic opportunity, and enhance the quality of life and its members by acquiring a formal education in the wildland fire management. I can bring new skills to perspective in this work, in this important work. I plan to use my knowledge to develop more effective fire management plans, improve community outreach and education, and mentor the next generation of tribe file professionals. Furthermore, my academic journey is not to just be a personal advancement, but a commitment to building the tribes and for self-determination. Therefore, finally, my interest in wildland fire management is inspirable for my commitment in cultural preservation. Fire is more than a land management tool. It is a cultural practice that connects us to our history and identity. The practice of cultural burning, guided by elders and firekeepers, in a ceremony that cleans the land and restores balance. My academic study would be dedicated to ensure these practices can continue in a modern context, navigating complex regulations and jurisdictional challenges. By understanding these scientific underpinning of fires, I advocate for the importance of traditional ecological knowledge, TEK, with borderland management to ensure that cultural considerations and prioritize ultimate. A career in the wildland fire management allow me to be a firekeeper in a modern era, using education to protect not only our natural resources, but also cultural traditions that define us as Indian people. Greg Weatherwax. So right now, in my career path, going up some ups and downs right now. I got a little family, got a baby, and I work, and I'm going to school full time. So I'm juggling all these things, and I'm using my PTO. Right now, I'm at 130 hours, and I use my PTO while I work. So I leave work, I use my PTO, and I go to school. Right now, I'm looking underneath 69D policies. I was just looking into there and was wondering if I could go to school while I work without using my PTO, and I was wondering if there's any reason what's the process. Also, I got some reference letters here too, if you guys would like to hear them. what's going on. And once I'm doing this career path and everything, I'm also in 3 different clubs. I'm in the Seeds Club for native plants. I would like to bring native plants back when I'm done with college, when I'm done as my career. When I'm done doing these forestry management units, I'd like to bring back all of our plants that's gone now, from the fire regimes and stuff like that. I like to bring back keeping our youth together, and I like to try to bring back the hunting camps, and also bring back stick game from the south. Up here as Kootenai,
I got James and then you,
Oh,
but
okay.
I wanted to let Greg finish.
also Kootenays have stick game. Salishes, they dance. It's a big separation. You don't see very many Salishes playing stick game anymore. You don't really see anything much of the youth, nothing much of the youth down south, really. So I would just like to see the process of bringing back stick game down south, like opening up the community center down there, by week, not every week, by week or stuff like that. And I just want to know the process and the steps I need to take to further my career and help the youth.
Thank you, Greg. Jennifer, do you have some?
I was gonna say Tony and Michelle are on for that issue, and for the stick game portion, I have Joe Derglo on.
Yeah, we'll go to James. James, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I'm not there. I'm battling some kind of sinuses and stuff. But Gregory, absolutely, you got my 100% support. I mean, you're a good example to our community, and with all of our young people that have got stuck in addiction and such, you've been just strong in that realm too. A good example, being sober and doing some positive things. And the other thing that Gregory does as well is he gets firewood for people in the community. So he's gotten me some firewood over the years, other people. So any way we can help him, absolutely want to see us help him.
Thank you, James. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Greg, thanks for coming in this morning, and I appreciate your presentation. In regards to your issue with going to school, educational leave. So you say you've been taking PTO
Correct.
to go to class?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it since school started, since September.
Since September? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I believe our policy states that you're allowed 8 hours a week for educational leave
Okay.
to attend school.
So I talked with Daryl Claremont about this situation that I'm going through right now, September, and he was kind of worried because he said he has 3 active people right now at the Division of Fire that's going to school, and he doesn't know the situation on if you can bring more people in. But these 3 people are about ready to graduate in the spring, so there is openings, but he never really followed up. He just like sort of left me in the corner or something. He didn't really follow up. He didn't communicate well with me, so that's why I'm here today.
No, I understand that, Greg. I just want to make sure that that you're allowed to use that educational leave. And,
Yeah,
and not have to.
I talked about
use
it,
your
and
PTO.
it was a blur spot. He wasn't really.
Well, I hope they can correct that and give you back your PTO and just allow you to use educational leave as you pursue your education. And yeah, once again, I commend you for what you're doing, going to school, working full time, being a father, and raising a family. You're a true man. You're a real man that stepped up and trying to better your life. So when we see that, we recognize it, and we know that we need to start figure out a way to provide more support more support in these situations, but I'm glad you come in. I mean, I'm really impressed with your demeanor. So.
But much.
Carol, then Jennifer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was on the first hot shot crew on the reservation.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah,
Here,
that-
here, Ron Sweeney's, yeah, he has a lot of good stories.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, you're already taking leave, so I understand that Daryl Claremont and Ron have a program to run. But also they need to think that you're already taking leave, so you're already going. And so I think whatever they can do to accommodate, and I'm sure Tony and Michelle will work this out for you, because that's what they do for us, is help people like yourself figure these things out. And I just admire you so much, because I'm kind of like that firebug too, that I can't get away from it, you know? So anyway, whatever we need to do to help you, I'm definitely willing to figure this out for you and do what we can to get you. You know, I brought up with council a couple of weeks ago, you know, I watched people come in here and present to the council. And that whole day, there was one day that was all non-members, you know, working up through our system. Why can't that be you? And I think the council's definitely behind you in whatever you do. So let's just keep in contact with one of us on the council so we know that it is progressing and things are moving forward. Thank you. I'll give you my number if you need it.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to make your presentation. You are very intelligent and very well spoken. You represent yourself and you represent our tribe very well. And I agree with Glenn, you know, you're doing a good job supporting your family, working towards your education. And it's our policy to give people working on their degrees 8 hours a week. And so I think what I'm worried about is that how many other, I know that there are other instances where people are being denied educational leave. And we have it there for a reason. And however other many people are using their educational leave should have no bearing on you and your education. What they're doing has nothing to do with you. And you should be afforded the same opportunity. Not, well, you have to wait until these guys are done until you can you can pursue your degree. It shouldn't matter. And it's part of our job to do everything we can to uplift our tribal members, especially ones like you who are working so hard to uplift yourself.
That's correct.
So I'm worried about that. I think that's something we have to look into, because you should be getting your educational leave and you should also be reimbursed for the time that you've taken off.
Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gregory, you're talking my talk. You're absolutely everything you said, your whole program's right up my alley. I did the exact same thing that you're pursuing right now. So educational leave, if it's work related, your job site, your supervisor can grant educational leave up to 8 hours a week. And I think that policy remains in effect. If a supervisor is granting you annual leave, that means they're okay with you gone. So I don't understand why it's not educational leave. You shouldn't have to burn. If they're already okay and you would be gone from the workplace, then I don't know why it's not supplanted with educational leave, at least up to 8 hours a week. So that would be the first question I have there. But definitely, you know, it takes time. It took me a long time to pursue. And it was a 20-year program for me to get my bachelor's degree. But I utilized it. If it's work related, you know, it benefits us, it benefits the program. You know, you betcha, it's a good thing. So not only that, if you're going to SKC, that's even further a good thing for us. So keep your head up, keep strong, keep working at it. You know, persistence will prevail, and you'll be doing what you want to do. So just keep your grades up and, you know, maintain that family, and yeah, you're a role model right now. So appreciate it. Thank you, Gregory.
So much.
Go ahead, Ron.
I like those words. I support that. I'll go back and try to help Gregory, or we'll figure something out, but I appreciate those words. It took me about 8 years to get a 2-year degree. I mean, it happens, but C's get degrees. And yeah, education's a big part of our program, so appreciate those words.
Tony,
Sorry, I heard the conversation on the way up. Yes, let's sit down and talk. I'm a product of that same scenario, moving forward. So I did, educational leave and, educational agreement, through forestry, my first term of my career. So, let's sit down and talk and figure out, as we do know, there is a balance of how many we can send in order to have an active workforce at the same time. And so that's probably where Darrow is trying to balance some things out, but let's figure out, schedules and figure out, availability. And we'll review an educational agreement with you, which puts, I mean, from what you talked and you spoke, you're ready to be a long-termer and commitment to the program and commitment to the tribe, and that's what we want. So, we'll go through that agreement with you and figure something out.
Yeah, cool. That's all I have to say. Got a reference letter, but I don't need to, probably don't really talk about it, I guess, but
your
Thank
other issue about getting stick game happening on the south, I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
sure.
I'll just, there's, what I normally do is I bring people out, young youth. I help them get their education. The ones that drop out, I bring them out and I cut firewood and I tell them what's going on in life here and everything like that. And told them that they need an education and I will help you. So I bring them the right way. And a good example is my nephew. I bring him out. He got his high set. Now he's working for forestry. He's a tree planter now, and then now he's working his way up. And he has a kid too. He has a baby. He's 18 years old. And I told him that you gotta live life fast because it's gonna hit you and you're gonna get depressed. You need to start staying busy. You need to work. So I'm just bringing these young leaders out and I'm building them up and bringing them with me. That's how I say it, you know.
Oh, that's great. Jay Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the stick game part, I can't remember what person that was. We tried to start this stick game down south and Paul denied us on using the community center as a weekend stick game, open games, get the community together. They got denied. And it happened here a couple of years ago when this person was trying to get this going. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Appreciate that, Jay Blue. Ben, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow what Jay Blue was talking about there. That man right to your right of there, he's got a big stick game family.
Yep, I'm part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there is a lot of people down in that RLE country that play stick game.
Yeah.
You know, and you get up Mission, same way.
Mhm.
You know, so there's a lot of them down there that would like to do it, you know, but I know Junior has his tournament every Thanksgiving
Yeah.
up here, you know, and that's about the only one that really they do anything with, you know, and nobody from down there gets anything going because he gets some money from the tribe to put that on, you know, and I don't know if the tribe has that much money to hand out to the people down south. But anyway, you know, there's a lot of stick game players down there, I'm telling
Yep.
you. So, but it's good that you're going to try to start it again.
Yeah. Yeah, any steps I need to take down there, I'll take it. So if there's any opportunities, yeah, then you have my word.
We'll do a little research on how to get into the community center.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in today, Greg.
Yeah,
And,
thanks.
keep it up. Just keep it up. I've seen most of these guys come through that program.
Dolson flunked me twice in algebra. Oh, yeah.
Got to do the work, Ron. Got to do the work.
Hey, yeah. That is, bro.
Well, yeah, thank you guys. And
Thank you. Have a good day. Morning, Sherry. Come on up. If you can turn the microphone on, that'd be great. There you go.
Well, good morning. I believe I asked for an executive session.
We will go out of regular into executive. We'll take a 5-minute break. The request is to establish mandatory testing. Motion by Tom. Second by Len. All in favor? We're unanimous. Carol out of the room.
Thank you, guys. Sorry to bring this on a Thursday.
I got Evan next, right? Evan with a capital equipment. Welcome this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of council. So I think we'll start on page 8. Oh. And I'm here to seek approval of the 2025 Wetland Conservation Plan. This is an update of the 1999 Wetland Conservation Plan. So this was completed a couple of months ago. We decided to bring it to council. I think Chelsea might be online. Chelsea Colin, she brought it to council and council felt that we needed to do a public notice and a public comment period, which we did in late September, early October. Did not receive any comments. So I'm here today to get approval of this resolution approving the Wetland Conservation Plan for 2025.
What's that, Martin?
Was there any comment? Did I miss that?
There was no comment. We did send it to our partners, our other programs. They did give us comment and we integrated it. It was also reviewed by our legal. So this was hopefully our last step.
Go ahead, Len.
Chauncey, thank you. Thank you for your work on this. Just trying to get a better understanding of how this document is going to be, how this ordinance is going to be used. Is this something that we also provide to the both Missoula County and Lake County planning boards? And they're taken into consideration on developments that are happening adjacent to tribal lands?
Correct. This is a public document. It's funded through the EPA, so they will have access to this document. This is mostly used for our shoreline ALCO, Aquatic Land Conservation Ordinance. So if anybody does disturb any kind of wetlands, this is a regulatory document that how much they have to, as far as replacement ratios, if they mitigation, if they disturb 1 acre, 3 acres have to be established somewhere else on the reservation. So it is a regulatory document.
Okay, thank you, Chauncey. And just one last thing, you had one spelling error on your resolution. The word conservation, we missed a B.
That is correct. I will get that fixed. Thank you.
Motion by Tom to approve the conservation plan. Second. With the correction, Martin, all in favor? We're unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good job.
Hopping over to page 11, my name's Evan Smith. I'm the program manager for water quality. And today I'm just going over a quick grant approval that we have some money for some capital equipment. We have been working on getting our poop in a group. And that is just simply getting our toilets that have been all around the rivers. They're all just old fashioned. You dig the holes, you slap the house on top of them, and of course they're right next to the streams. So what we're doing is we're either relocating them or we're putting them mostly in the vault toilets so that we can extract them. So this is just simply a capital equipment of buying 5 of them, and that's $118,000. That'll be the total. And we have the money.
Martin?
If there's a outhouse like that near a body of water, will you guys switch those out to vault toilets if it's on private property at, like, say, a cultural site?
So this section of grant funding will be for the Jocko drainage areas. So this will be, we've had a couple that have been replaced, and we're going to keep going higher with all the camps up the Jocko.
Finley Creek?
We're looking at, we have the sites here. Eva Paul Ranch, Espinoza, South Fork Campground, Burnt Cabin, Mosquito are some potential ones that we're looking at to replace.
What I'm saying is that something like down the road.
Potentially. This is just a start. We're going to aim to replace all on the reservation.
So this is a Environmental Protection Agency grant for 2 years to replace those pit toilets. And after 2 years, we can possibly look at more sites.
Motion by Martin. Len's got a comment.
Thank you all for notifying of this, but I also want to ask you to add Lozo and Drive Work, if we can get those types of facilities up there also.
We can definitely in the future, but for the proposal for this grant, we didn't throw those in those sites.
So how long would it take to add those?
Thank you, Councilman Two Teeth. We are looking at a lot of sites on the reservation for these vaulted toilets. We have 27 vaulted toilets that we can place, and we have 22, and we're still looking for a few more sites. And you just mentioned Dry Fork and Lozo to our staff, and we're working with Lands and Wildland Rec, and we can definitely look at those 2 sites that you just mentioned today, because we are looking for a few more sites. Please work with Mark Couture on notifying us where those sites may be, and then we could start planning that.
All right, good deal.
You just did. So we will put that on our docket. So thank you, Councilman Two Teeth.
We got a motion by Martin and a second by Jimmy. All in favor? Moving forward with the capital expenditures. We're unanimous. Thank you, boy.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. And we have one more capital equipment request from Randy Ashley, our air quality manager.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Today I'm bringing forth a capital equipment request, sole source for, we intend to buy a black carbon sensor, and we intend to use this during wildfire events, make it mobilized so that we could take it to the different communities and be able to monitor the smoke impacts.
Question. Got a motion by Martin. Second by Bing. approve the capital expenditure. All in favor? Unanimous. Randy?
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair. We are on page 15 now. We want to give an update on designated river access. And I think Tabby Espinoza may be on. Okay. So I'm going to have Tabitha and Todd Espinoza discuss this. We've been looking at these projects for going on a couple of years now. And we want to look at giving you guys an update on the lower Flathead River access and some mitigation parcels that we're looking at to kind of push our recreationists, both tribal and non-tribal, along designated areas and improve some sites down in the Dixon area, and utilizing water compact funds to do that from some projects that we're doing in the Kicking Horse area. So I'm going to have Tabby and Todd go ahead and do the presentation to you guys today. So I think we have a PowerPoint presentation. So go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Espinoza. I'm the Wildland Recreation Program Manager. So yeah, just to kick off, kind of an introduction here. So this is a 34-mile stretch of river between Sloan's Bridge and Perma Bridge. It's become increasingly difficult to manage due to the illegal access sites all throughout that river corridor. I think we're all well aware of the amount of access points, and it's become extremely difficult for the game wardens to even get to a lot of these areas. It's riddled with illegal access points. So this whole strategy moving forward is kind of a destination management. We're going to try to corral people to designated, established, maintainable access points that we can maintain on a weekly basis, and then we can close all these illegal access points. And the whole point is to have them evenly dispersed through the area, so people can access them through multiple towns along that range, and that we can maintain and to stop this illegal access. But the ones on here on this map, we have the Locust Lane. You can see Old Agency, Hoskins Landing, and Wild Plum Landing. These are evenly spaced out. Locust Lane is roughly 10 miles from Sloan's Bridge, another 12 miles to the Hoskins Landing area, and then another about 10 down to the next site. So hopefully that will alleviate some of these issues we've been seeing.
I don't see Faust's Slough down on there. Is that not on this map?
These are just the established ones with proper access points. Faust is well used. There's a lot of ones that are used next to campgrounds, but we're trying to get more developed sites that we can actually maintain, that will have vaulted toilets there instead of just people using the wherever they want. But yeah, you'll see in further sites, it'll be more descriptive. So the first one to discuss is Hoskins Landing here. Due to the previous landowner passing away and then passing it on to his son, and then since then it's been bought out by a private individual. So some things have changed down there. We no longer have access, the tribe no longer has access to the existing Hoskins Landing boat launch site. So since then, we have moved, just this last week actually, I think a few of you have went down there since then. We've moved the group shelter Now it's back on tribal property, as you can see here where the vault toilet is. So the group shelter is right in front of it. It's a better location. You can actually see the water. We put in a permanent picnic table there. It's all metal. And then we redid those benches there too. And they're redoing the roofing on it here today. But also with this site, the amount of sedimentation that's accumulated over the last, decade or so, it's become almost unusable, to the point where you have to carry in kayaks or rafts even to access the waters here. Only at extreme high water level is it even usable. So for the purpose of a boat launch, it's not even necessarily a boat launch anymore. So there's no actionable item here, more just kind of an update. We recently had, I just wanted to give you guys this info too. Last week we had it pumped out, the vaulted toilet down there, and it was riddled with needles. I mean, full of needles. So I think there's a pretty significant drug use taking place down in that area. So the proposal, there's no action, but it has switched over to private usage. So it would be nice to have a developed site close to this area, close to the Schleep community, close to Old Agency, where they could still access a point there. This next one is on the proposed new launch site, referring to as Wild Plum Landing, also known as Frank Acevedo's fishing spot.
Frank spot.
Yeah. Through evaluation of many potential sites through that entire area, this one was the preferred alternative for new development. The key advantage is easy existing access from the public road. You leave the existing road to Hoskins Landing. I don't know if you can see my cursor on there, but you can kind of see the road access point there. It's about a mile from Hoskins Landing, just downstream. It's located on tribal property. It's outside wildlife and fisheries mitigation areas. There's many through that area. It has a gentle riverbank slope, very suitable for safe launching, and it also has minimal earthwork. Some of these other areas, good potential sites, but the amount of soil you'd have to remove and the road access would be just enormous amount of destruction to the riverbank in order to get a proper boat launch in there. This one, it already has been used as a catalyst for many years. It's a gradual slope. We brought a engineer out there just to give a tentative idea if this was a good spot. He said this was the best location of the ones that we had looked at. There's a backwater right here, which allows, it's deep right there as well. So there's not a strong current that runs through there. We wouldn't deal with the sedimentation issues that we're dealing with at some of these other sites. And there's also minimal wetland disturbance in that area as well. It's been a catalyst for some time.
Is there still a current lease on that, and how is the leaseholder? He's got somewhere else to put his house?
Yeah, right now that would still be in effect with them. What the plans are, the mitigation plans with him on this, the small acreage that's going to be taken out of this lease. I think it was a couple acres. It wasn't going to be that big of an impact on him. The road access going in will be fenced on both sides, so he will have the pasture to the west and pasture to the east, so it's still full utilizing it without the cattle getting out or getting into the landing site. If approved, then we approach the lessee and let him know that it's moving forward and the mitigation to allow him the access of both sides of the property still without hindering his operation at all when he is utilizing it.
It's Jerry.
Yeah, it's Jerry's.
Yes, the proposed construction at this location would be the concrete boat launch, designated parking area, and as Mark had explained, the fencing would start literally at the access point, and it would follow all the way down to the Wild Plum Landing, and then it would fence off the entire parking area too, just to put a halt to any potential leaching of recreation as we've seen at some of these other sites. And that's kind of our plan with all these, is to fence off the access road all the way to it to try to keep people, more contained. Also installation of a vaulted toilet here as well. And I'll let Tabby kind of explain the funding, where this is coming from this project, potential project.
Yeah, so the way that the Division of Engineering and Water Resources kind of interfaces with this project
is that the Kicking Horse project is going to have impacts to recreation and fishing access and the actual fisheries population at Kicking Horse. So the access to Kicking Horse will be limited for, several years, at least probably 3 years, where people won't be able to use that facility while construction is underway. And then the fishery will be completely reset. And so that's, going to take several years to refound the fishery. So in conversations for project planning around Kicking Horse, we were having conversations with all the resource managers about, here's all the impacts that we know about, how can we minimize those, all those conversations that we always have, and then what do we need to do to mitigate? And one of the things the fisheries program came up with was the idea of a new boat launch on the Lower Flathead River for numerous reasons, to replace the boat launch that we would be temporarily impacting through construction at Kicking Horse. We would replace that use offsite. But for them, I think too, it would be really, really beneficial for their management purposes, to have access for their monitoring boats on the lower river, where they're not having to do several miles of river. At night is when they sample, and so it would be a major benefit to their program for their fisheries management activities. And then as far as the public, we would replace the boat launch, the day use facility, and the vaulted toilet that they would no longer have access to at Kicking Horse during the course of construction. We would kind of mitigate for that offsite. And so that's kind of where we got involved, using compact funding to offset those impacts from Kicking Horse.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of questions. Is there off of the, hey, go back in time. Off of the, is there right of way on that first stretch from the road?
Right away. Let me go back to the slide here so you can. You're talking about the first
To the
section of
railroad
the road
siding?
here, the railroad. It's
Yeah.
railroad owns that, but there is tribal property just above it there. So this map's a little bit off, but the road would be on tribal property.
Oh, okay.
Do that.
Not on the railroad.
Yeah, it would be very, very close to it on the other side of the fence, but it would go on tribal property. This map's a little bit off.
So, back in the day, we didn't have any boat accessing at this site. When it was private land on either side of the Sandwich County right of way. And so when the bridge was condemned and then it burnt up and disappeared, we got Sanders County to abandon the right of way. And so the right of way from the highway to the river was abandoned. It became tribal property. At that point in time, we looked at it to approach either landowner to see if we couldn't do something there on their property. And that's when Mr. Hoskin granted us a 1 acre lease on his property for 99 years. And one of the interesting things about that site is the ice jams and the river flooding. So the toilet was put purposefully up high to get it out of the ice damming and the river flooding. Are you proposing to do something like that? If you're going to put a toilet down in the floodplain, are you going to beef that up? Are you going to elevate it? Otherwise, the ice it may get flooded.
We can definitely, and it'll be engineered as well. This is just the initial planning. That location, there is a bank, and it's the actual access point. It's due to the cattle. There's multiple parts along that river. The cattle have just eroded away to almost a boat launch itself. So it is up a little higher at that exact location. You do have to drop maybe 5 or 6 feet down. So extreme water levels that still could obviously flood. But yeah, no, we'll definitely take that in consideration. Yeah.
Just so you know, we're the old picnic shelter that we built there at Hoskin's Lane or Chalet. The water depth was up to 8 feet there in that picnic shelter. So it was right up to the base of, actually kind of came over the road, but at that point in time, we didn't have a vault toilet up on the road. So that was a consequence of the ice jams.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would advise you to elevate anything you do as high as you can. So back in the day when we were trying to plan for the river corridor, and we didn't own a lot of the property, and we've congratulate, the tribes and NRD and the mitigation programs, especially through fisheries and wildlife, acquiring so much of the river frontage and some of this land we're talking about right here. We wrote a corridor goals and objectives that was vetted with all the tribal programs and culture committees at the time, and really restricted development to existing points of access. And with the logic of what you're talking about, next to these concentration points of already access where there's a road going to a public road going to the river, and you already have people, swimming at that site, like people did at the Dixon Bridge. So going outside of that, I could see maybe this would be mitigation for that, but the next one you have, I have a lot of problems with. But the big question is that where are we with the river corridor planning as far as the bigger cultural river ordinance and plan? Because really, if we're engaged in that planning effort, is this premature as far as any development, or this is immediately trying to respond to a need at this site? The other one I have a lot of issues with as far as rewarding negative activity, but I could see this one falling as an interim need to take care of while your river corridor planning is going underway.
Mr. Chairman, thanks, Tom. We are still in the middle of our cultural waterways ordinance management planning. We do talk about some of these things in that, so we haven't completed that. I guess when I think about, for sure, Wild Plum, thinking about that mitigation for Kicking Horse being out of commission, and for the fact that Hoskins, that was people used it, and now it's private property is a detriment to our access to the river. So we're still in the middle of cultural waterways management planning. We talk about destination and consolidating accesses. And we are trying to lean back on that 93 plan, river corridor plan, if that's one you're referencing, to try to utilize that for the basis for the management plan for cultural waterways. Not a great answer, but it is part of what we're doing, and we're thinking about it and talking about it.
So the next site for discussion is the old agency site, the old post and pole yard. After coordinating with Wildlife, Fisheries, Tribal Fish and Game, Shoreline Protection, Lands Department, DOER, consultations with Kevin Askin, CDP and preservation staff, it was determined that this site is not suitable for a public boat launch due to its close proximity to grave sites and culturally sensitive areas. The environmental degradation from past industrial use, the site needs to rest. Ongoing illegal activity, the dumping encampments, and a lot of drug use in the area, a lot of enforcement challenges, unavoidable wetlands impact. Pretty much the entire access point is in a wetland to build a boat launch there. And due to the higher banks in that area, and the area that would be best suited for a boat launch, there would have to be a lot of material removed from that site. Also, with the funds that would be used to move forward with this construction, it has to have a Section 106 clearance from the National Historic Preservation Act. And in that dealing, we would have to have approval from Preservation Office and the culture committees, and that will not be granted for this proposed site. So the proposed action kind of moving forward, and this is from Lands, if you'd like to kind of describe that.
Yeah, with all of the illegal activity and that down there with the dumping and everything that has been going on down there, and we've been dealing with, Fish and Game has been dealing with, Mary Rose with Brownfield has been dealing with. We were looking at this of trying to decommission that whole area. It was brought up to us is that the Salish Culture Committee wanted to talk about potentially fencing off that entire area. If you look at the red line, that is a proposed fence that's going to be getting put in. We were looking at doing a 3 split rail fence down that way, but we don't want to use, we're changing our thoughts on that red line to do a well casing fence there so it can't be sawed up or ran through with a vehicle. It'll prevent that any illegal accessing that area from the railroad tracks right away all the way down to the bank at the river. At right next to the Anita Map building, there is already that road access where they were getting in, and the Tribal Lands Department had went in and put in a tube fence or gate right there. We want to attach to that down to the home site and around the home sites all the way down to the river with that, with some walk-in access points. On the west side, closer to the river, in between the home sites and that where they would have walk-in access only. The road in that could be opened up during the day use until a certain time at night. We would look at potentially contracting an individual from the community that would be over there to open the gate in the morning at the set time and would close it and make sure that nobody was in there upon closing. So then that way the agency residents would still have close proximity access to get down there and utilize the river for their kayaks or anything else that they want to utilize the river or go fish out of there. They would still be able to utilize that site, and it would be tribal member only and not be out for public use for the general public.
Thank you for those comments. And this one gets tough. I really want to take some of this information back to the community and have a district meeting and visit with them and maybe have you guys come visit with some of these proposed access points before we actually make a decision on things. But, you know, we're working hard to push out some of that illegal activity and we want healthy growth down there. And it's going to take all of us to really do that. It's hard for the good people in the community to feel punished constantly by not getting additional things because of the handful of bad people. We've got 30 plus homeless people walking up and down that river corridor or the railroad tracks, a lot of them with heavy drug use. And it's sad to see those needles down there at the river at all accesses along the river. We find them. But, you know, the non-compliance with lease lots down there and a lot of different things where we can clean this up. I like the idea of having some walk-in accesses, but there's a really pretty lot right up on top where that old garage is. It'd be a beautiful overlook with a nice shade over and a walking path down or some stairs down or even some handicapped access. We've got a lot of elderly in our community that are with walkers and wheelchairs and even youth that have a lot of disabilities down in our area. And I'd like to make sure we're thinking of handicapped accessibility as we're planning some of our future sites so we can accommodate all of our people. But yes, I just want to again say we're really trying to grow in a healthy way, and we appreciate you guys, you know, looking to make some improvements down on that end, and appreciate the continued support. So thank you guys.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just want to add to Danielle's comment also. I would have to support that. I think we should kind of hold off. I know there was some additional information that I think our elders would like to see on site-specific proposals before we move forward. But yeah, I'd like to hold off on voting on this as we gather more information. So.
Okay, the last one for discussion is Locust Lane access. This is another site that's ideally situated. It's approximately 10 river miles downstream of Sloan's Bridge. It's a long expanse there. I mean, I know that there's access points, but none of them are established. Ones that we regularly maintain. They're not a primary recreation site. It's 12 river miles upstream from Wild Plum Landing, so it's kind of in the middle there. The site has served both tribal members and non-members for many years as a vital entry point you know, and it has been closed down in the past. And these closures, in attempts to restrict access through boulders, through signage, even had game cams up there, it continuously gets removed. There's been a lot of attempts and some pretty extreme attempts, especially with the boulders, and it doesn't last. The individuals, I don't know who they are, they remove pretty much everything that gets put up down there, so it has been continuously used since then. But moving forward with the fact that there's not an active site, and that is it's a pretty good boat access spot as far as the topography of it. It's a straight section of river. The launch itself is even grade. I know many of you that took place on our cultural waterways float. That's where we exited. And this site has not been maintained because it has been closed down. So in doing so, it would be on a regularly maintained basis. The rec crew would be out there weekly like the rest of our primary rec sites. It would be made similar to the other launch site where it would have a fenced road on both sides of it. The entire access road going down would be fenced off. It'd be day use only. That has worked very well to reduce not only like noise in the area, but to greatly reduce litter. That's usually what we see the most is the overnight ones that if they're partying down there. Other than that, you know, it's your regular diapers and, you know, day use garbage. The original closure was prompted by a complaint from a nearby resident regarding increased traffic and dust from the county road, as well as litter along the river. Efforts can be made to address these if it was to become a primary rec site, it would be frequently not only visited from the game wardens, but also from the rec crew cleaning. And then they could explore dust abatement issues, both with tribe and the county as well. But yeah, if this was approved and we did move forward with this, it would be a great potential place to have a vaulted toilet to further support the recreational use. The official river access would be on our weekly cleaning schedule. And I know I mentioned that, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows it would be well maintained.
Tom and then Danielle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I could go back into time from the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s. Nothing existed here. So this is actually an impromptu development. And based on our management activity, it's totally illegal. And so this is where I get a real problem with rewarding illegal activity and turning it into something. So to me, I'd rather emphasize, you know, let's double down on containing this and keeping people out of here that are doing illegal activity, you know, do whatever we can. But that's my main issue. And again, I'd really like to have the overall planning done for the whole river corridor before we start building new sites. So it's an impromptu site right now. But trust me when I tell you that nothing existed there when I was working in the river. There was no access site there. So it's been a use, whoever developed it, whoever started using it, they discovered it, they started using it, started magnifying the use. Again, it gets to that point where I'd rather have more central, farther distance locations. I don't mind walk-in sites, but I think we really need to focus on containing our boat access sites to you know, major sites, and that's it. Because when you talk about moving, you know, aquatic invasive species and other things, you don't want scattered boat launching sites that people can do all over. I think we really need to try to structure it so that we stay at Sloan's, we stay at Schleep, stay at Perma, stay at Buffalo, and really just focus on that. You know, that would be my preferred alternative, would be to look at those major ones, and that's it for as far as boat access site.
The reason we chose that one is because it was halfway between that 20-mile stretch from Sloan's down to Schleep. People are going to continuously find exit points because they don't want to float that long duration. So we just chose a section that would best fit, that was halfway between. And this one was, you know, it's illegal. I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, they just need to understand that it's a 20-mile float. And if they're not prepared to do that, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I'm with Tom. It's been accessed illegally for a long time. From my understanding, it's non-members going down there and pulling those rocks and stuff out, and the posts that we put in with their tractors and their equipment that they already own. Yeah, I just don't like the thought of rewarding non-members bad behavior. out there. Faust Slough isn't very far from there. It's got a bigger recreation area. There's already fire rings. People camp down there. I don't understand why we build something new when we don't maintain what's already established. I really struggle with that thought process. I don't know if there's any thought into maintaining that road down to Faust where it's heavily used already. There's already an access point down there. There's already fire rings. There's already camping areas. I mean, I wish we just maintain what we have before we build something else, because I'm scared. I know you're saying it's going to be maintained, but when we see other places unmaintained, I feel like we're adding another access point, rewarding bad behavior and not maintaining what we already have.
I hate to say this, but I used to party down at Faust. But yeah, that's what I was wondering, why we aren't looking at that one, or didn't we buy the Otopolic property down there where we did some work? And I don't know, maybe at that time it should have been thought about, maybe making an access, but I don't know what money was used to purchase that one, but anyway, I like the Faust Slough a little bit better, but yeah. I don't like, I agree with Tom and Daniel.
Go ahead, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've heard a lot today from the tribal council. Where I wanted to come today was to bring it in front of the tribal council to kind of give you an update of where we are and get feedback from the tribal council. And I think we've heard you, at least from some of you. You know, this has been a process for us, and a lot of work has been put into this. We've done a lot of outreach to our culture committees with preservation on this, and we got some work to do with the cultural waterways ordinance and among other things. And I heard Councilwoman Matt, and I have in the past, and just because you saw what was on here today, there were options that we were looking at for the Dixon Agency to do up above, not necessarily right along the river. And then hearing from Councilman Two Teeth on some more concerns that are coming up that I haven't heard yet, or our group hasn't heard yet. And then hearing from Vice Chairman McDonald, you know, this was our attempt to just come in and present it and see where the council was at today. And if you're willing to approve the projects as is, because with mitigation dollars on the Kicking Horse project, we were just looking at direction. And if you guys are ready to make those action items or not today, and it just sounds like you're not ready to do that, at least from what I'm hearing. And I could be wrong, but that's all I wanted to say today. And, you know, that we're ready for more questions if you have them today or not. So.
Ed Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I haven't heard from preservation yet on this. Is it, we hear from Kevin, if he has anything, information for us?
Thank you. Yeah, we've worked pretty close. Even as a team with our preservation department, we've had Travis, Oski, Carlin, Pasquinel, both Madeline and Kayla. We, as a unit, we did review quite a bit about the concerns. And you know, for us, we worked pretty hard, especially the way I would say that we heard why make a council presentation with what's feels like this steps in front of the cultural waterways. I think was because us as a department, we saw that there was a request for the boat launch in Dixon. And we thought that for us, and maybe suggestions we had with our IDT and our other department heads, is that as a preservation, we don't have anything to do with directing anything recreationally. However, we do deal with quite a bit of damages and record quite a bit of work that's put into preventing damage to cultural resources site, namely perma. As of recently, we have another damage down there. And this one was a little different because we had the 3 burials that are right near the proposed area that was down there at Dixon there. And to me, that's how I saw it. It was immediate response, even though it does feel like it's a little ahead of the cultural waterways. I felt like it went right together with the work that we were doing anthropologically and archaeologically. I was actually one of the main ones that suggested Locust Lane because Faust Slough has quite a bit of cultural resource lithic material down there that comes out right on the 2 tracks, and it looks like there's multiple 2 tracks that happens. I would probably in the future request that there be some kind of minor development that controls where traffic actually drives down there. But again, as a review department and working with our team, I really am proud that I get to work with the other department heads and Tony on these things because together collectively, I always see that we work really hard in our own IDT meetings. Like you guys should see when people beat each other up about minor things, just so we can be at 98% or 100% sure. And that's how I feel. Like with these recreational boat launches, I feel it is at that point in design. But I do see that here also, and this is a like way off unsolicited opinion about Locust Lane. I also see that I didn't go on the float trip. However, I tried to make the landing when everyone was picking up elders from the spot, and I've never really seen it. However, I do know of my brother was a ditch rider, and we've worked that river quite a bit. There's a lot of makeshift little launches that are a result of cows walking down on those. And what it does is exposes a lot of artifacts. And Martin probably worked with us a few times, and that's actually how we found a lot of artifacts. Full diagnostic artifacts was from those little trails there. For us as our department, we would see a positive effect from controlling where the traffic actually goes. And we also worked quite a bit on the Avista project, and they direct a lot of their recreational traffic through multi-use or lot owner docks. So they propose large T docks as opposed to 10 small ones that are not more than 50 yards apart from each other. And that also goes with the boat launches too. We've had to reject a few of those because they're right near a few of those sites on that river in the Clark Fork area. But for us, I do see that there could be a positive effect, and it might take a few years to actually see that come into fruition. But for us, we would appreciate just at least the shot at directing some of the recreational traffic there. But path of least resistance is how I see with the Locust Lane, is why everyone goes there and messes it up all the time. So I know that it feels like giving up on our department. On our department, we don't know of any sites or didn't see anything when we did our initial surveys down there either. That place and Frank's place either. So yeah, that's a good 2 or 3 cents I have for you. Yeah.
Other questions? Go ahead, Tom.
My question, I really don't, I'm not objecting to the Shirley wild plum one, actually. I was only concerned about floodwaters and if you develop something there, as long as you have a clear right of way. I know that part of that land was an allotment down there. I guess we must have acquired it since the early days. It was like a landlocked one. Yeah. That one I certainly would probably support that one.
You want half of a proposal?
Sure. I'll take what we can get today. Because then it would allow us to move forward with the planning of Wild Plum Landing. And then we can continue discussions on old agency and other areas.
Danielle?
No, I really like the landing in town. I'm with Tom. I do need a visit with Jerry. I don't want to have him be caught off guard and tear me apart, because I think he has the right to know that we're gonna impede on that cattle lease up there. I know it's our land, but he's an elderly gentleman and has been leasing that lot for several years, and I think it's just a courtesy that we can give him and definitely move forward with it, and him understanding it's best for everyone.
Yeah, I'd be more than willing to be with you, and I think we will do everything in our power to make it as easy as possible for him.
Can I get a motion for at least what is Wild Plum? Motion by Tom to proceed with Wild Plum. Yeah, definitely. Second by Carol. With good notice to the lessee. Lessor. All in favor? Motion is to proceed with the Wild Plum landing, boat landing. Just that, not, and to continue the conversation about
The planning, yeah.
so it's specific just to that one boat landing. All in favor?
Mr. Chair,
James?
I need to abstain. I had to step away for most of the discussion.
Thank you, James. Danielle? Yeah, Glenn? Yeah? No? Jennifer? Yeah. Jimmy? Yeah. Paul? Lauren? Carol? I didn't hear, I'm sorry. Barely counts. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 1 opposed. That's Len. And James abstains. Thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
I think, Mr. Chair, I just would encourage the department and all the staff to work, as quick as you can in the cultural river ordinance and planning, because, as time goes on, it just increased use, more consideration for trespass and, climate change. It's one of our most valuable treasures is a river corridor. And so, I don't know what the future is, but that's what you're going to try to pan out for us and give us a strategy to how we're going to manage that large river into the future. So, and I think it's important for us. So I just encourage you to, because then that we need to step down from that. This would be an action from that we would be enabling. So without that, I really have a hard time considering any other changes other than trying to contain illegal activity to our best ability and maintain what we have. So I just appreciate the staff's effort. I know you all care about it, and sincerely. And Kevin's walked a lot of that river, and he worked recreation program for a while, so he knows all of that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tammy. You need executive? We'll go out of regular into executive. Sure. Welcome this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. How are you?
It's another day, by golly.
All right, good.
You gonna lead introductions, Katie?
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair, members of council. Today we are meeting for our government to government consultation for the proposal for the rescission of the roadless rule. We had previously put in a formal comment during the initial proposal for the roadless rule for the U.S. Forest Service. And so in our comment letter, our biggest concern was that there was a lack of consultation that went from the Department of Interior and USDA back to any federally recognized tribes, including the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. So with that request for consultation, Regional Forest had then set up for us to be able to meet with some of our local forest supervisors. And so today we have the opportunity to discuss some of our concerns, some of our oppositions, and have a discussion through here. And as I understand through the regional, is that today does not have to come to any sort of conclusion between CSKT and the U.S. Forest Service. Today is just to follow that process of which we requested for an official consultation. And so today we have Anthony Botello with us, and I will just let you guys introduce yourselves quickly, and we will go ahead and get in started.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the council. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. As Katie said, it's an honor to be here to talk about the roadless rule rescission. My name is Anthony Botello. I'm the forest supervisor on the Flathead National Forest stationed in Kalispell, Montana. I'll let Ben introduce himself here in a second. We have one other participant online here. John Hagengruber is online via Teams or Zoom. He's our note taker. As Katie said, we're here to just introduce this roadless rule rescission, talk a little bit about what it is, and get tribal comment, or at least the initial stages of tribal comment. And John's going to help us document that, because one of the things we really want to do is as we discuss this with tribal nations, just be able to capture some comments and feed that information back up to the agency and the department. So John will be doing that. I think he can hear pretty well, but I think he's asked if you don't mind, if you have comment, just to introduce just your name so he can keep that information square.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. And I guess good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back here. Ben Johnson, Forest Supervisor for the Lolo National Forest. And as Anthony said, we're here to talk a little bit about the rescission, or the proposed rescission of the roadless rule, and really listen to y'all in this first step of what is a multi-step process.
Mr. Chair, so Ben's from the Lolo, I'm from the Flathead National Forest, and the other forest that we have typically come and discussed information with you is the Kootenai National Forest. So Ben and I are also representing Chad Benson, the forest supervisor on the Kootenai National Forest, who had a conflict today and couldn't be here, but he'll also be a part of the consultation with the roadless rescission rule as we kind of bring you updates. So just as an overview, as Katie mentioned, so at the agency and the department level, there is a proposal to rescind the 2001 roadless rule, which affects all national forests across the country, with the exception of a couple of states. A couple of states have their own state roadless rule, which are not at this point being proposed for rescission. One of them, our neighbors in Idaho. But the proposal is just that, a proposal. And as Katie mentioned, one of the things that we need to do before there's a final decision at the agency level is do government-to-government consultation. So that's why we're here. You know a lot about the roadless rule. It's a rule that affects National Forest System lands across the country, and it affects those lands differently depending on what forest you're on. And so how it potentially would affect the Flathead versus the Kootenai versus the Lolo versus the Beaverhead Deer Lodge, et cetera, is a little different. All of our management and stewardship on the National Forest System is foundationed in our forest plans. The Lolo is going through a forest plan revision right now. The Flathead Forest Plan is relatively new, 2018. And so we've got some direction in there and some guidance about how we manage our inventoried roadless areas. And that wouldn't change. So depending on what the final decision on the roadless rule rescission project is, that would just be sort of this national effort that would then allow the forest to take that decision, however it ends up, and determine through their forest plans how we would manage roadless on the forest or not. It could change the way some forests manage their inventoried roadless. In other cases, it may not change it a whole bunch. I know for the Flathead, we've got some pretty contemporary direction in our forest plan regarding roadless, and the only thing it truly prohibits is road building, permanent road building. We have the ability in our forest plan in some very specific cases to harvest timber, and it's primarily small diameter timber around wildland urban interface, around private property, and we don't do it through building even temporary roads. And so the roadless rule rescission, one of the purpose and need, one of the reasons why they're contemplating doing this is to give more flexibility at the forest level to treat vegetation specifically around communities for wildland fire protection. There's all kinds of statistics about fire impacts on national forests, especially in roadless areas when they have when they've impacted communities. And so by rescinding the roadless rule, one of the purposes is to allow some of that greater flexibility. And so if and when the rule is rescinded and there's a project in roadless, obviously that'd be one that you would know about. We would solicit comment. We would come to consultation if that was requested and talk about what the impacts of that would be. So I know for the Flathead, we've had projects where we have implemented some level of minor vegetation treatments, but it's been sort of on the edges of roadless and where that roadless area has kind of abutted private property or high value risk and communities at risk. As far as the schedule as of now, this is a proposal, and the tribe's got notification of that and requested formal consultation, which is what we're doing. They're talking about potentially having a draft EIS this coming spring, March of 26 as a draft EIS, after taking public comment all across the country, both from tribal input and non-tribal input. Potentially having a draft ROD sometime at the end of 2026, whether it's maybe like a year from now. And then the rule is not subject to 36 CFR 218 or 219, which is our appeals process, because it's a rule, it's rulemaking. But as I said, once we get public comment, once we get tribal comment, that will inform potentially any alternatives that are developed over the course of this EIS. And as Ben and I were talking with Katie beforehand, Ben and myself and Chad are all committed to coming back and talking to you all about the progress of the proposal and any alternatives that are developed as we go forward on the timeline. Anything to add, Ben?
Yeah, I'll just add from the perspective of the Lolo, like as Anthony mentioned, we're in the middle of forest plan revision. And so I think when I came here a couple months ago, I mentioned that we had heard of this rescission proposal. We're trying to think about, we're in a little bit of a unique situation as to the fact that we're currently in plan revision. And so how do we treat this foreseeable action of the rulemaking of the rescission of the roadless rule? And so what we've tried to do, at least now, and we're paying close attention to see how this sort of national effort evolves and how it influences where we go, but we're trying to have alternatives in our draft plan that we'll put out that include roadless areas and ones that do not include roadless areas, so that we can actually compare the effects of having those two land management designations and really see what the effects are and what they aren't. Additionally, in our plan, we have other designations that are actually in some ways are even more restrictive to use than the roadless areas, so are backcountry management zones. And so that's another thing that I know we've been engaging with Katie and other members as we go through plan revision of kind of like those overlap quite a bit with our roadless areas. And so there are other ways that we can use the plan revision process to ensure that we're protecting areas and interests for CSKT as we go through consultation on the plan itself.
Go ahead, Len. State your name first.
Len Two Teeth, I'm the Elmo representative on the tribal council. And I just have a question. So there's a collaboration amongst all of the local tribes. We also have collaboration with our sister tribes in Canada also. And they all come to an agreement that there's no action. Okay. Is that going to come up as an alternative or an option, or is that just going to be stated in a public comment that the tribes say that we want no action?
Mr. Chair, thank you for that comment, Mr. Two Teeth. Yes, I think that, well, one, the agency will look at a no action alternative and just as the baseline for change and compare any action with the no action and what those effects would be. And so, and I would say that if through tribal consultation, there was an overwhelming consensus from tribal nations about what the desire is from a tribal perspective, I think that would hold a lot of weight with certainly with an alternative. Don't know about a decision, but certainly with an alternative, I think that would be heard pretty loud and clear from agency leadership.
Carol, go ahead. State your name first.
Carol Lankford, Lankford. How long has this been in effect, the current rule?
Mr. Chair, the current roadless rule that we're talking about, or what's been proposed for rescission, was enacted in 2001.
Okay, so if you, let me see, how do I ask this? So if they decide to go forward, let's say the public decides to go forward on it, when would it be implemented? Is it a long time from now, or just, I mean, can we wait out the administration? No, I know that's a crazy question.
Again, the current schedule is potentially, depending on comments, a draft decision a year from now, a record of decision potentially a year from now. Again, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that there was no alternatives. It's just a straight, the decision is to rescind this rule. That would just be rescinding a rule, and it wouldn't necessarily automatically affect how we manage National Forest System land here or there. Then we would have to take that rule and then put it through the direction that's in our forest plan to see how that would change administration of National Forest System land. So I guess to answer your question, the decision is a little ways out there.
Okay.
And the implementation is even further out there than that.
Okay, and you mentioned urban interface, reasons why. I'm wondering how the new wildland fire program is gonna, how it's all gonna fit in this. And we don't even know that yet. I know there's meetings this coming week in Seattle for tribes and then also in Spokane for FMOs. And I guess the other question is, my biggest concern about this whole thing is when we open up lands that are roadless is weeds. And there's no way to ever stop it. And so I guess the question is, if they do proceed, will they put a lot more money into programs? I mean, there's just no stopping weeds. Once you open it up and once people drive in there once, it's done. And so maybe it's not even a question, maybe it's just a comment. So if you don't have any answer to that, but that's my huge concern is, and we're already getting all kinds of crazy, serious weeds out there like the Medusa head and those kind of things. So yeah,
Agreed.
it's
Yep.
protecting our properties. And if they're no longer, if they're not roadless, if they're roadless now, certainly that's where we stand, I believe, as a tribe, is to make sure that they stay that way. But I understand fire is a different animal and you need to protect communities and stuff, but certainly that's a big concern of mine. Thank you.
Tom,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
your name first.
Oh yeah, Tom McDonald, Tribal Council at Large and Vice Chair for the Tribal Council. Anthony and Ben, thank you for coming in. It's good to see you again. And you know, I know you guys are resource professionals, and of course you're in recreation. You have a recreation background, right, Ben? So it looked to me like of course, the obvious emphasis on this is to try to reduce fire danger where there's human inhabitants, I guess. So I used to be in the fire business in a career ago, and my brother and I used to joke a long time ago about the mission range up here, because we'd have fire starts all over different places where we had multiple use, had timber harvesting activity and forest management, intense forest management activities, but we had fires. But yet up in the roadless area, the wilderness area, my brother used to call it the asbestos forest, because we had very few starts up there. And well, they did start, but it just didn't go anywhere. And kind of incredible. Then you go to the other landscape and you see more frequency of fires. So when I see a retraction of the roadless rule, I see more multiple use. I see more motorized use. And when I look at the historic data of just my casual observation, there's a direct correlation to increased fire danger with motorized use. And so it's kind of contrary. It doesn't make any sense to me why, if you're really concerned about fire starts, other than natural wildfire starts, why would you be putting more human activity in the forest landscape that can cause more fires? I remember one year it was really a dry year. It was one of those years where we went like months and months without rain. It's hotter than heck. And we started getting some big fires, and it obviously was drying out because of climate change. But every fire that we had that year wasn't caused by lightning, because there wasn't any lightning. It was all human caused fires, usually associated with roadways. And whether it was a, dragon muffler or, just human use in an area that they shouldn't have been there and doing what they're doing. But that was the nature of the fire season. So it really demonstrated the need we could have stopped that fire year from happening, because every fire that has caused significant damage, the large fires we have, were all human caused fires. And so I just fail to understand how, by opening up more acres of current roadless, I mean, we don't have more land that's roadless. We only have this much. Whether it's designated wilderness or backcountry uses or whatever it might be, state parks, whatever it might be, tribal designations, you don't create more roadless land. You could try to recover it, I guess, once it's been done like that. But it's like we need to take stock of what we have, and it doesn't make any sense for me to do that. And the second thing is if we were going to do manipulation of the forest, we're going to remove wood products from the forest to reduce large woody fuel mass. When we do that, remove the shading area, we increase the fine fuel danger. And that's really where the lightning starts things up for me is the grass fires. And then you end up with more wind, you end with more wind throw effects of the forest. But it just doesn't add up to me. For us, protecting roadless landscapes is that we have the charge to protect the headwaters of our streams and rivers. And every time I've ever engaged with, back in the day when we first formed our tribal elders groups, water was the most important thing. And if you take care of your water, you take care of everything. So to think that you're going to punch more roads with lifting this rule and think that's not going to have effect on watersheds, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely not happening. We put in, we cause and affect the whole drainage when we do that. We have stream crossings, we have culverts, we have, we're moving sediment, we're providing barriers, and it just doesn't add up for what we want to do for protecting the fisheries. So for protecting water quality, drinking water. And then we look at simply, hiding cover for wildlife or habitat for wildlife, and to interject more motorized traffic or pathways where we can have overharvest or impact habitat. Again, when we have less of that every day, and we have these other cumulative effects where there might be some epidemic in a wildlife population from blue tongue or chronic wasting disease, or we have, whatever it might be, to think that we're going to introduce more pressure on what little habitat that wildlife has, whether it's fisheries or wildlife, is just counterproductive, really. And then where would you even take the product? I mean, and who pays for the road? This is an added burden onto the taxpayer. We as taxpayers, I don't see how we could even afford a timber sale that would justify punching in roads. Would it be temporary or go in and come back, or leaving it there permanently? Just doesn't, again, it doesn't add up. I don't know where all the local mills are that would even help provide that. So it doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense to me. What would make sense to me would be, hey, go ahead and designate wilderness areas. Let's just do it. And let's protect it as permanent roadless landscapes. That would be the most appropriate thing to do. Not open it up for, the falsehood that this is going to improve safety, because it doesn't. When we have wind events that roll through this state that can burn down a town in central Montana in December because the wind's driving the fire, but there's no trees at all burning down homes. How do we expect to think that this is going to prevent that? It's not. It's not going to do anything unless we can stop the wind, and we can stop people from being stupid and starting fires. But I think it's false. It's false as far as the assumption that this is going to be a safety measure for the landscape. I think it's the other way around. It just doesn't really add up with the cumulative effects of doing that. I know each forest, I have some confidence, but our forests that we're concerned about are the entire state. And this entire state is basically the forests it's the arid west. This is fire. It's fire behavior here. So whether it's the Custer Gallatin, or it's the Deer Lodge, or the Helena, or the Beaverhead, or the Bitterroot, we have the same concerns for every one of those forests. And it's critical that they treat those forests with the utmost respect, to protect our treaty rights that we still have and will have forever. And it's so many. I don't know, I could go on and on and on. I'm going to stop right there because you have our letter, at least. But on the fire side of it, it just doesn't make. What we should be doing? We should be going out there and planting as many trees as we can, everywhere we possibly can, and not removing trees. And, but I understand it's a renewable resource. It's an important resource for so many of us. I was a logger, firefighter. I love wood. I love building with wood. I love the idea of, renewable products like that. So I'm not anti-logging. I'm not anti, um, cumulative uses that are appropriate, that are sustainable. I believe in that. I run a chainsaw, just ran one yesterday. I built log homes. I love wood. I love the whole thing. But to use fire danger as an excuse to somehow stimulate economic development or gain off of our national forests, or do the good neighbor policy and empower the state to go in and log our lands that we own and share together, is, again, not the right thing to do. We have just as much right to keep that forest intact as it would be the state to contract with you to operate under the good neighbor policy. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And I'm Mike Dawson, and as you have more access in the forest, how do you keep people on the roads? All of the resources suffer. Opening a gate for folks who are not as respectful as they should be to the forest. We have uses on our roads that definitely get off our roads, that onto our our tribal lands, and wreak havoc. I don't see you stopping that. You open more access to folks who are looking at it as a convenient place to play and to not respect. So, and then to also add to the rest of it, one of our major pollutions in our area is dust. We'll add more dust. Tony, it looks like you have some.
Yeah, I'm just waiting my turn. If there's any other leadership that want to make a comment before I go, I'll yield to that.
Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you. Tony Gashola, Director of Tribal Resource Management. A couple questions in your opening statement. I just want to get clarified. Can you go over how Idaho is not involved in this, and how that came to fruition or evaluated to exclude them and not any other? I think there was one more state, but not exclude other states.
Good question. So this is the 2001 roadless rule that affects all National Forest System land as sort of the umbrella roadless direction for the National Forest System. In a couple of cases, Idaho's one I know, and I know that there's in Colorado. Some states did, through their own legislation, enact a state roadless rule. Idaho is one, Colorado is another. And so what those states have asked is that their state roadless rule not be affected by this. What those states did was, through collaboration with the state of Idaho, state of Colorado, they came up with very similar guidance for roadless areas within that state. But because they were done at the state level in collaboration with the Forest Service, the rescission of this wouldn't rescind the state roadless rules.
Okay, and how can we progress with doing the same thing in the state of Montana, or progressing with a nation-to-nation collaboration to enforce or make our own roadless rule for our Aboriginal territory of the state of Montana?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think how that would be done between the state of Montana and the Forest Service, I'm not sure. I was in Idaho. I worked primarily in Idaho for the majority of my career. I was there when they went through that roadless rule, or that Idaho state roadless rule, and it was done through collaboration with the Idaho Department of Lands, state legislature, and the forests within the state of Idaho. So I think that's the model that would have to be done here within the state of Montana. As far as a tribal collaborative effort with the Forest Service, I'm not familiar if that's been done or how that would work. if let's say this 2001 roadless rule was rescinded, then I think then there would be an opportunity for the CSKT to work with the tribes within your interest and see if, and maybe that could be through our, our shared stewardship agreement, have some ability through that to enter in some sort of agreement on management of roadless and tribal resources. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd like to definitely see, sorry, Chair, I got a little laundry list of questions here after that, but I'd like to see that as an option or at least a avenue to explore and mention within this to either work with regions or states and local forests within there to even see if this recession of the roadless rule is even applicable to these areas. I know I can't speak for other states or other national forests as the way their roadless rules were set up or designated or identified on a map or geographically. But I do know our roadless rules or our roadless areas within our Aboriginal territory don't necessarily follow a lot of the criteria that was brought up, such as, protecting communities at risk. A lot of our roadless rules are more higher elevation or draw type activity or in draws that make it high disturbance to the resource in there. So I don't know if that consultation with regions or the forests themselves happened in order for this to even be put in place as a national movement of recession of the roadless rule. But I would highly suggest that be brought forward to have each forest or region evaluate their acres of roadless rule, where it's located, and if it meets the criteria of the initiative that you explained in the beginning, if that's going to be the point of removing that rule in those areas.
Anthony, I'll just add, I think at least from the Lolo perspective, I think our plan revision effort it's not the same as what you're describing, but it's an opportunity to have those discussions and come up with that alignment, right? Because we're looking at all these management zones, whether it's called roadless or backcountry or semi-primitive. We have that ability in the plan to codify those sorts of designations.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, really good comments about what we would do different and where, because for the Flathead, and I know in a lot of other forests, roadless areas have been roadless for a reason, and they've been roadless forever. It's not like we created roadless areas in places where we actively manage timber, for example. So for the Flathead, I would not see us doing much, if anything, different because the suitability of timber in that high country is not there. We would not, I think Mr. Chair brought up this idea of the financial viability of some of these. We wouldn't do that work to go search for timber volume. What we have done and what our forest plan allows to do, and the only thing I could ever foresee us doing, is doing that work truly for protection of communities where that wildland urban interface abuts roadless. For example, we have places on the Flathead that private property homes, that private property boundary, which abuts national forest system land, the roadless area designation comes right back down to the back of their fence. And we've done some treatment along there. That's what our forest plan has allowed. That's even if the roadless rule was rescinded, that's the type of work we would only ever do. We would not be interested in going up into that high country and impacting some of those truly pristine, unroaded places because it doesn't meet the criteria of what the reason why they're talking about rescinding this.
And that's, you're hitting my points exactly of why. I mean, it's an example of taking a square peg into a round hole and applying it across every forest across the nation, which you cannot apply the same silviculture across the nation. So why try to apply the same rule? And I think that those situations can be evaluated in consultation with us during your forest management plan revision process, and maybe classifying those as restricted land bases as opposed to roadless or temporary road use availability based on situations. But I don't know how this entire rule as a whole applies to the nation. It just, and that's our main concern is it's another example of leadership trying to make a rule that is not applicable to local knowledge or local techniques. One last comment is I would want to ensure that part of this consultation process moving forward includes the rest of the forest within our Aboriginal territory, especially including Bitterroot National Forest, Helena, the rest of the forests that are encompassed in our Aboriginal territory, ceded lands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will certainly pass that along and invite the other four supervisors to attend the next time we come and consult on this. I think that's a really good suggestion.
Katie.
I don't think I fully introduced myself for note taker. Katie McDonald, Tribal Relations Specialist. I guess my first question to you two is, have you guys had the opportunity to read CSKT's formal letter of opposition?
Yeah, I read it.
Okay. My follow-up with that one is, we've identified some of our top priorities as critical resources that right away that we could comment on for, gaining some interest for this consultation. And I would just like to comment that as we continue going forward with additional consultations following this, is that there are other resources and other departments within CSKT that could add more context to overall tribal CSKT concerns going towards a decision such as this. And as Vice Chair had mentioned and Tony had mentioned, we all know is that our Aboriginal territories really do stretch across dang near the whole state into Idaho, into Canada as well. And it is a pleasure to be able to have you two coming in here, meeting us face to face to be able to hold this consultation. But I think some of my professional frustration is that considering how many national forests and all of the acreage within the state of Montana alone, where we have our footprints of our culture and our history, that's quite a bit. And as we all understand, is that coming from the Forest Service side, as well as CSKT, a capacity issue is at hand. And to be able to hold a lot of that trust responsibility, there needs to be people behind these desks. There needs to be people who are writing those emails, making those phone calls. And that was part of the original frustration that had come when we had seen that there was a proposal to possibly rescind the 2001 rule. And one that I really, obviously, I've got more background in cultural resource management. And one of my biggest concerns when doing any consultation with any agency or any folks who are doing possible disturbances on the ground is our Indian Religious Freedom Act, whatever sites that we have in the National Register or not, the integrity of upholding tangible and intangible resources. It's something that here in 2025, we still have an issue of having agencies understand what we're talking about with that intangible, those things that we cannot accumulate, that we can't touch, that it's a feeling, and it's something that's special and unique to all three of our tribes that are here. And so that just kind of plays on to more of some of the frustrations that we may have had in the past, and one even most recently, where we have to continue to build that trust. And so I really look forward, and I guess my last formal comment that goes towards a question is, yes, we've provided this document, and I just mentioned that we have other resources that we would like to give more time to because we needed to hit a prior date to a November 25th of when CSKT can meet with the Forest Service. So I'm hoping that as we have future consultations going, we will be representing more of our resource departments from CSKT to provide more context. And I know, you good folks were able to read this, but it would be something that not only all the forests need to understand, but as we all know, we're meeting here today on behalf of folks in DC. And so I appreciate your guys' time coming in and meeting with council, and I appreciate other members of council and their comments. Here in the room, we also have some of the co-authors that had helped provide information for this first initial request for consultation. So again, those are some of my notes that I've had for formally hopping into, as well as other folks had hit some topics as well. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom McDonald, once again. I just wanted to respond a little bit about the what you said, Anthony, about, like, say, example of Flathead National Forest. When you're talking about that, the buffer zone, let's just say, between roadless areas and private inholdings or private land and development. So one of the things that maybe this administration should really be looking at is good land use planning across the landscape. Because, you know, why should we be sacrificing our collective resource, our trust resources, our treaty rights, because someone built a house where they shouldn't have built a house in the first place? And there's so few resources to go around as it is, and to think that we're gonna take our really hardworking, you know, firefighting personnel and put them at risk when that house shouldn't have been there to begin with. You know, that's something that really should be considered as far as, you know, a mandate, something different. It's like building in a floodplain. Why were you building in a 100-year floodplain when you shouldn't be building there anyway? But why are you building in this high frequency, whatever intensity fire regime? Why would you do that? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. But that's real critical around us, because that affects us here on the reservation also. So the bordering forests next to our core homeland, which is the reservation itself, is at risk with that. So every time someone builds somewhere and causes that potential there that a fire is going to start from that person that's living up in the top of McLaughlin Creek or wherever it might be, or up on you know, I guess up here on the east shore of Flathead Lake on Flathead National Forest, Bear Dance or wherever it might be. They shouldn't be building there anyway, right? So that's part of that should be part of the comprehensive program. It shouldn't be just, we're going to go out there and treat roadless areas because we think it's a fire danger. Let's talk about where the fires start and what are we trying to protect? Why were we sacrificing everything that everybody in this country shares in common to benefit a couple of people that shouldn't have built right where they did? That's an important aspect, I think, that should be considered. Thank you.
Other comments? Questions? Steve, come up to my mic.
Steve McDonald, Forest Manager for the Confederated CSKT Tribes. I would just like to put a little in context here. This rule was implemented in 2001, is that correct? And at that time, between the Lolo and the Flathead National Forest, you guys are putting out probably between 400 to 600 million board feet a year as far as timber between the two forests.
About less than.
Okay, I remember doing some transactional appraisals, and I used to use your numbers to help value our timber. And I remember maybe it was prior to that, but I know that there was a drive at that time to have a produce product for the 30 plus 40, almost 40 mills that were in the area. That's no longer the case. There's only 3 to 4 mills in western Montana that are accepting wood. And so there isn't a supply problem. I think there's many acres in the Forest Service system that could supply wood for these mills that are still existent. The issue is probably more NEPA and everything else, Endangered Species Act. But opening up these closed areas for product does not have any logic to me as a manager of the forest. And I know that you guys can't have an opinion, but my opinion is that anybody who manages natural resources would not be in favor of this action. So I know that you guys are in a tough place. You guys can't comment on that, but that's the opinion that I would think. And I think that the tribes have made it very clear where they're standing. And I just wanted to add a little context to the history why that bill was initiated and to where it is now. And is it really needed? Thank you.
Tony?
I just want to add on to that a little bit.
Give your name again.
Just, you don't, he said you may not have an opinion, but you have a trust responsibility. You have a trust responsibility to be the managers of a land base that encompasses our CSKT tribal history and treaty rights use. And so that's where you got to look at is this best fit for our forest, or is this blanket rule not applicable to us? And I think that's the message and the response and the responsibility you as forest managers have to bring forth in this consultation to the national level.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. One of the things that goes along with that, if this rule is ever rescinded, let's just say it's rescinded fully, it also would not mandate the forests to go actively manage roadless areas. That would be something that the forest would have to propose. And if we ever propose that, we would come and consult to make sure we didn't impact tribal resources. So again, when I look at the roadless rule of 2001 and I compare it to what's in our current forest plan, which directs me of what I can and can't do, should or shouldn't do, it would not even encourage us to go into places where we haven't been. Because again, viability is not there. It's not a place we've ever gone to seek timber. It's not a place that we feel like would provide that. So it would allow that in places, but it certainly wouldn't mandate that. And if we ever contemplated something like that, we would be back here explaining to you why we thought that was a good idea.
Understand completely, but only way to ensure 100% that it won't impact is by this roadless rule to stay intact.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I just want to, Tom McDonald, Tribal Council Representative. Kind of piggyback on what Steve McDonald said, as far as it, and you guys are natural resource managers, you know right from wrong, you're doing your job. But I think the cause of this is uneducated politicians, whether it be representing the state of Montana or whoever it might be. They think we have to have some kind of European model that every inch of the forest has to be actively managed and touched by humans. And the trees have to be spaced this far apart. And that's not the case. That's not the case here, and not the case at all. So I guess my last comment would be to encourage the Forest Service to do the best they can. I know you try as much to educate the politicians on the value of an intact forest, on roadless areas, wilderness, wildlife habitat, headwater protection, cultural resources, treaty rights, all things out there. But for some reason, I think they don't hear it enough. They don't hear it enough, or they don't understand it enough. Whether it would be Senator Steve Daines, he's the one I would point at first, and try to educate them as best you can. So, as responsible managers for resources that we all share, and you guys are my forest supervisors. That's the expectation that I would have from you, is to try to edify the edification of our elected officials in Washington, D.C. so this type of rescission doesn't happen. Thank you.
I think I'd like to add, this is Mike Dawson again, that these rights that we're talking about are not rights that were gifted to us in any way except from the Creator. These are rights and abilities that we have had since time immemorial, that we did not give up when our tribes made a treaty with the United States. We did not give up these rights. These belong to us. They're not something that ever belonged to the federal government. So I'd like to emphasize that. Glenn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Len Two-Teeth, Council Representative for the Elmo District. One aspect that I wanted to mention that I just don't think that our decision makers will take it, may or may not take into consideration of this, is the spiritual component of roadless areas. All the Indian people, there are many Indian people amongst all of the tribes that visit the roadless areas. Many of them go there to sing their songs and find their medicines, and that's never ever mentioned. And I think that's something that needs not only be recognized, but it should be in the documents too. It should be acknowledged that the Indian people use these roadless areas for those things, so things that take place. So thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you. James Steele, St. Ignatius Rep Council member. My question goes to it's my understanding the proposed rescission has what they call a one size fits all, that the current roadless rule doesn't fit all of the different particular situations of each national forest. And the idea that I'm understanding is to return that authority to local land managers. Is who does this precision consider a local land manager? Is it the Regional Forest Service? Is it the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribes? Who is it considering? Is it the state of Montana? That's my question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Steele. That's a good question. As you said, I think the concept of rescinding the rule is to allow the discretion of how those lands are managed back to the local level, which would be the forest supervisors, the district rangers, the line officers, the local line officers of the Forest Service. As I said, if the rule was rescinded and prohibitions that were contained within that rule were allowed, then the forest supervisor would propose something like that, and we would come and consult on that on a project level basis. So from a National Forest Systems land standpoint, when they talk about giving more discretion at the local level, that would be at the forest supervisor level, the district ranger level, the local line officer.
I think we've had experience throughout history that the local folks can be our greatest friends or our greatest enemies. So I agree with the vice chair and with Tony that nice to keep the door shut.
Katie McDonald, I have a question for next steps, just because it's obviously a request that we had, CSKT formerly had back to Interior and Department of Ag, but is now down to us. What are our requirements? What should CSKT anticipate to either participate in or be able to pay attention closely to any other sort of formal requests? Or as we know, the draft EIS should be coming, but would there be anything that our leadership here should be focusing on to be able to ensure that the same and additional resource managers are readily available to comment or continue?
Yeah, good question, Mr. Chair. I think the next steps would be if there was anything that came from today that you didn't already articulate, or even if you wanted to emphasize from the letter that you've already sent, if there are things that we talked about today that you really wanted to emphasize directly to Forest Service leadership, you could certainly send that as an addendum to what you've already provided to us, to the department, to whomever. Put that additionally in writing if you feel like you need to do that as one step, making sure that and again, we're going to bring these comments forward to make sure that they're understood of what we heard today. But if there's things that you really want to express, put a finer point on, more emphasis on, please do that. That's why we're here. Two, if there was additional consultation that you request of us, of Ben and I, of Ben and Chad and I, of the other four supervisors, between now and the spring, either it's hey, we got more to tell you, or we want some information from you about where we're at, we're glad to do that. So it would be at your request that we could come back, provide anything that you didn't get today, or an update of where we are in the process. Either one or both of those things. As we've said, we are your four supervisors and we're committed to doing that.
I'll just add real quick. I think you will get formal notifications at certain stages, formal in terms of like comes from the department. But like Anthony said, consultation it's not like it ends, right? And so we're here and we're available.
You guys, I truly appreciate you being here today, Anthony and Ben. I know with the president administration looking to streamline all kinds of activity, attacking resource, I would basically say. I've seen very many times that consultation was reduced to notification, and notification is not consultation. So I truly appreciate you being here today.
Mr. Chair, likewise, we appreciate the invitation. And one of the things it's a little different for those of us who've done consultation a lot is we typically come here with a project that we're proposing and that we think is a good idea on the landscape, and we want to share that information with you. And this is slightly different. This is something done at a different level, and we honor the relationship that we've developed with you all, us and our predecessors, and people who come after us. And so we don't want this to have an impact on that. And so while it is something that's being proposed at a national level, we want to maintain this, and we're accountable to you with this and all the other things. So if there's things that you need from us, please let us know.
We appreciate that, truly. Any more comments? Anything in closing?
Thank you again for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As of this morning,
Yeah.
got to go back and make sure everybody's trickling into the office. That's right.
Chairman, thank you again for participating today. Other members of council, as you all well know, I will stay in communication with not only the two forest supervisors that we have here, but starting to reach out in our extended areas as well to see if there are any additional interests or availability for forest supervisors to have discussions such as this. And I'll stay in coordination with not just chairman, but any members of council. If you guys have any additions that you would like to have to any possible addendums that we have. So I really appreciate your guys' time and appreciate the insight that everybody has here today. And thank you for this day.
Thank you, Katie. Stephanie, thank you so much.
Good to see you.
He's building pumper trucks at Missoula by the airport.
Oh, really?
Baz Tanner.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could we have a brief conversation with Francis Auld here in executive session?
That's possible.
Francis, you got 5 minutes to visit with us? I wanted to bring up an issue.
Take the chair. And you're wanting it in an executive?
An executive session, yeah.
They're in.
Tom?
I appreciate you trying to patch all this together and because it was a mess. I mean, we had a bunch of people doing stuff that had no familiarity with the work they were doing. created kind of a mess. So this is a cleanup job. As best we can do with the time limits and the funding that's available.
And one thing to be aware of is there probably were applications that were received after that deadline. And so if somebody finds out they're not getting their work done, it would be because their application was after that deadline and didn't get processed in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you all. I'll provide the list for your records so that you have that for yourselves.
That's fair. Again, it looks like I didn't have my mic on. The motion was by Tom, second by Danielle, and unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Ron is on now.
Ron,
Hey, good afternoon.
what you got, man?
So I just wanted to talk to you folks, our tribal council membership, leadership, about the upcoming consultation in Seattle. And this is a schedule of the alignment process of the unification of the Department of Interior, U.S. Wildland Fire Service. And we're through basically phase one, finishing up phase two, and we'll be really consulting on how to formulate phase three, which is the organizational realignment. Nothing's for sure. There's some organizational charts that they shared with us, but I just wanted to let you know where we're at in the process. So I think this initial consultation that we will have, I'm hoping there's others, but it'll be really trying to frame the expectations and help align their organization to meet the tribe's needs. So I wanted to share that with you this morning. I will be at Seattle. I'm trying to get CT Camel to accompany me, and there is a virtual consultation Monday that Tribal Council can attend. You have to register, but it's a valuable opportunity, I think, for us to see what consultation is going to look like in person. And I just wanted to let you folks know that this is going on and this is where we're going. Still kind of fine tuning the bullets. We did send you some. I think Ryan Roosh has sent some your way. I'll probably have some. I have an FMO meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk to, I think her name's Jean Juliet. Anyway, she's part of the Bureau of Indian Affairs upper level fire management, and she's going to join. And then we'll look at the consultation that they have virtual on Monday to fine tune some of our points that we want to get across when we have the in-person consultation. And obviously we'll have an opportunity with the letter. So that's all I wanted to share on that end, if there's any questions.
Doesn't look like any questions, Ron. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, Mike, if I could, it sounds like there has been some stuff going around about the 638. And I did send, it's in Tony's email and it's in yours, Mike, as well. So I've been trying for months, and I've sent you several emails that kind of outline that, Michael, Mr. Chairman, that we're trying to get into a 638. It's been a little difficult to work with the Northwest Regional Office on this subject, and I don't know why. I got till November 22nd, according to an email I got from Michael Garcia, to have our draft statement of work and our draft budget and our tribal resolution. And I've sent them, I think it was on Monday, or it might have been yesterday, the tribal resolution, the draft statement of work, and the draft budget. And it sounds like they're wanting me to change the budget. And I'm open to that. I mean, I put draft on it for that purpose. And hopefully they're willing to work with me and try to figure this out, because time is short and we need to get into a 638 soon so that funding can continue to flow down to the tribes to support their fire program. I guess at that point, Tony, you got something?
Yeah, thanks, Ron, Mr. Chair. Just got a notification from our contracts and grants personnel. They received a call from Michael Garcia, notifying that there are some issues with the budget. They want a more detailed, broke out budget, which is frustrating on Ron's end, because he's been asking for this type of guidance and consultation and coordination in developing this 638 contract, but hasn't received it. But we're willing to do it, change the budget or change the detail of the budget any way they see fit, in order to get a correct submission put in place. But we do need a correspondence going back to Michael Garcia, letting him know that we need to pull back that original submission in order for us to redo the draft budget. Legal terms or their process, we need to notify them today by email at least, in order for them to retract it, because if it moves forward as is, it will be denied as a full submission or correct submission. So I'll send you the information, Chair, just to reach out to Michael and say we're retracting that submission and redoing the budget, and have it to him shortly. And hopefully moving forward, the work and coordination between Garcia and we'll be out reaching out to Ron and figuring out exactly what detail they want in there.
Yeah. And I've submitted correspondence that goes back to May, me reaching out to the Northwest Regional Office, all of them requesting support or help to push this together. And I submitted to you the email that I sent to him, and it clearly states draft, statement of work and draft budget, hoping that someone would work with me. So I apologize if I overstepped my bounds, but I didn't know where to go with this. I just want to get the 638 in place, and I know time is short. So I was attempting to push the issue. Evidently, I pushed it a little too far. And I'm willing to reach out. I don't know, maybe it's out of my league, but I would talk to Michael. I've talked with him before. He's the one that told me to submit it to the regional budget analyst, Regina Hoffman, to get support and help with it. So she's CC'd on every one of my emails. So I don't know. I mean, that's where I'm at, I guess. I apologize, and I'll do whatever you would like me to do from here.
Any other questions for Ron? Basically, the statement you have for the budget categorizes the main line item. I imagine they're wondering how those expenses are broken out.
They just said, it needs more detail, as opposed to one budget line item. They need a detailed list of breaking down that costs.
Of the aviation.
Of aviation specifically. And Ron, I advise you to work with Kelly as she's got that information. And I asked her in a separate email to send us the breakdown of all that needs to be fixed, if more than that.
Certainly. And just for reference, I took the budget that we got last year, or the budget that I was told we would receive, and added the 25% that was included in the tribal pay reform memo that I provided tribal council, signed by Brian Mercier. And that's where my numbers come from.
I think I understand. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, guys. Lemon.
And did you get the email I sent you forwarded? Okay. And Michael Garcia would be the contact too. Okay.
Other questions, Tony? Thank you, Tony. Lynn?
Before we close today, there's one issue I wanted to bring to council before for the close of business was open session, either one. So the Elmo community is going to be hosting a community dinner on Saturday at 5:30. And so I was wanting to get council's concurrence to donate paper products, plates and bowls for the event that we would get out of property and supply.
Danielle?
I totally support that, but Len, could I ask that you add our paper plates and cutlery for our community meal on the 21st?
I'm on Dixon.
Thank you.
Hey, Daniel's is a motion, Martin's second. All in favor? Paper products. Danielle?
Sorry, and also before end of day today, just really want to thank our CSKT SNAP response, the volunteers. The shutdown's over, but that doesn't mean the food insecurity for some of our people is over. And they just did a wonderful job responding on such short notice. And I think we need to continue our efforts to support the entities, the nonprofits, and the people that are supporting our people. The Kasanka Food Pantry, I'd seen that they've been soliciting donations. They've been approved for a grant that'll match them up to 3,500. And I don't know if they'll reach that goal. I know they're well on their way, but it's tribally operated and they seem to be doing a really good job for the Elmo community. I'm really proud of them and really looking towards what they're doing for plans for the future to see how we can get more food pantries throughout. But I'd like to see if we could get them that $3,500 match so they can get the total match.
Martin?
I spoke to Madeline today, and it sounds like they've raised about $1,500 so far, and so it would just be covering the remaining.
Is there a time limit on when the match can be made?
And November 30th is their deadline to have their donations. So whatever they make up to $3,500 will be matched by Town Pump, I believe, is the company.
That's what we were told earlier. I'm just wondering if we waiting to see what donations they get besides and finish their 3,500.
I'm good with us revisiting it as long as we don't let it get beyond us.
Yeah. So we got legal yet, Jen?
Oh, legal just wanted just Chelsea on
Chelsea.
today, and then
Okay.
I put them for 2 hours on Tuesday from 1 to 3.
Okay.
And then I just think Martin had a resolution that he wanted to.
Do we have quorum on Tuesday? We have
Do
several.
we have quorum next week?
I think we do on Thursday. I think Carol will be back Thursday, but she's gone Tuesday and I think street council are going to. We on Thursday? Who's all going to Seattle? Martin, Tom,
I'm not.
Jennifer. James, that's right, James. A quorum Tuesday or Thursday.
We have enough for an election.
I'll be here.
We'll be here. You'll be here. Okay.
But we have tribal health committee at 1, so election committee would be at 3.
No, I just.
And Carol's gone on Tuesday. She comes back Thursday. Len's gone, but you'll be here. But okay. That's right. Yeah, we should have a quorum Thursday. When Tom's not in a meeting. Martin.
And then my issue was just the resolution, for NCAI. Jen, you're the main delegate. Jennifer's an alternate. I'm an alternate. That's the resolution. Can I make a motion for it?
So we got it written? On the screen.
Is it making you the alternate instead of somebody else?
No, Mike, the chair and vice chair are always the delegates. And so finally be it resolved, Jennifer is the alternate or is the delegate or an alternate and I'm an alternate.
Motion by Martin. Are you the second Bing? Bing second, all in favor? 7-4, Jennifer abstains.